Welcome to Truth and Justice with Vivian King. Tonight, we're going to talk about hot topics in the news and give special recognition to our veterans. Today is Veterans Day, and we're honored to have in the studio an Army veteran, Mr. Danny Sneed. So Danny is dressed in his regalia, his Army regalia tonight. He's a proud veteran that actually works for the Veterans Administration and here in Houston. And we also have with us young blood tonight. We have Cookie Moncrief on tonight. So she's going to talk to us about what's happening in the news with young people. And we'll always talk about the truth. We'll always talk about justice or injustice as we go through our programming. And remember, viewers, I want to tell your story. So call me, email me, text me, let me know what your stories are, and if you want to come live and educate people about the criminal justice system in Harris County. So without any further ado, let me move it over to Danny Sneed. So Danny, it's Veterans Day. Tell me what you did to celebrate a veteran today. And thank you, Danny, for your service to the United States of America.
Thank you. Well, for most veterans here in Houston, Veterans Day is Christmas Day for us because all over the city we get so much love and support from everyone. And almost all restaurants open their doors and they feed us.
You got some free food today?
Oh,
Yep.
I mean, I had a list of,
Oh my God.
these are all the different places that you can eat. And as you can see.
Don't show us a list. Tell me what was some good places on there.
Well, I started off my morning at Denny's with the Grand Slam breakfast. And I left Denny's and I went to the Roadhouse and I had a steak and a potato. And I left Roadhouse and I went to Red Lobster and had coconut shrimp. And I eased over in very, very covert action. I went to Hooters. And you didn't hear that, nobody saw me. So I went to Hooters and I had these great big burgers.
That was one of those covert Army moves.
Right. You know, it's Veterans Day. They was honoring veterans.
Right.
So I had to go in there. So they was honoring veterans.
You had to go say thank you.
Hey, thank you for your service, Hooters. And so I left there and I went to Chili's. And I left Chili's and walked across the street to Starbucks. And
all these things are free today.
All these were for veterans.
Wow. Oh, wow. Let's take our hands outside. Veterans. I didn't know that.
And if it wasn't for the show, I'll probably be at
spot. Where?
Yeah. Let's see, Applebee's.
Okay, we can still go after the show. And
Golden Corral also feeds veterans.
Oh, you can still go there tonight. So you need to go somewhere where you can take a to-go plate home so you can have something for tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
So Danny didn't have to work today because it's Veterans Day and he works for the VA. So he got an opportunity to do that. Otherwise, Danny is working his butt off all day long. Danny is like me. He has 4 jobs. I have 4 jobs, and Danny has 4 jobs. Isn't that right, Danny?
Right, and 2 of them are with you.
2 of them are with me, and then 2 of them are for pay. One of mine is a little bit, but not much.
But again, for the Veterans Today, let me tell you what Veterans is about. It's really not about us. It's about us being able to honor the ones who are not here. So when we're out and we're receiving all this love, it's not about the living. We're taking the place of the people that actually died. And I tell everybody, I appreciate you saying thank you for the service, but what about the men and women who are not here to go to these restaurants? We're there to stand in their place. At least that's my perception of being a veteran. I'm alive and well and able to still enjoy being an American. But I'm gonna tell you something, Vivian, I wasn't really a patriotic person until I served in Korea. And when I went to Korea in 1985, and I saw how that country looked versus what America looked, I had been taking for granted all the liberties we have over here. Because in South Korea and North Korea, if you didn't know, they're still at war. It's just a ceasefire. So when you walk down the streets, they have active military with armed weapons on every block.
Wow.
So when you're on a city bus, they stop the bus, and everybody has to show ID.
Wow.
And this is a daily routine. Why? Because they're still at war. And so once I was exposed to that, and I realized, like, wow, this is like not America. When I got back to the United States, I had a whole different perception, and I learned to appreciate the liberties, and that's what it's about. We take for granted all the things that we have abundance. You go to some of these countries, when you go in their stores, let me tell you the vast difference. You know how you go into a Walmart or to a Kroger and you go to the bread aisle? The bread aisle has bread on the whole aisle. When you go to their countries, their bread aisle is just a little shelf.
Wow.
They don't have all the varieties that we have. And we just take it for granted that it's like that everywhere, but it's not. America is the greatest planet, the greatest state, the greatest country on the planet. On the planet. There's nothing rivals us. And I'm just so proud that at 17 years old, when I was in high school, that an Army recruiter convinced me, a very optimistic, ambitious kid, that I could be all I could be. I could leave Texarkana, Texas. And here's a cool story, and I'm gonna digress and we're gonna pass it. When I was sitting in that chair and they was doing their pitch about joining the service, remember, I'm in high school. So he's telling us all of the opportunities. And one of the things he said is, you can get an education. That if you join, we'll pay for your education. And he said, you'll never worry about health care the rest of your life, because once you're honorable discharge, we'll take care of that. But here's the key. I looked at my neighborhood and I thought, where would I be 10 years from now, 5 years from now? And I didn't like where it was. But the way the Army is structured, it always showed a bright future. So they gave me an opportunity to join a delayed entry program. So that means I actually signed to go in the military while I was still a high school student. But here's the incentive. I got promoted before I actually went into the military. You know how I did that?
No, how'd you do that?
I convinced 3 of my classmates to go in the military with me.
All right. So you're a recruiter. You've been a recruiter since you were 17.
But think about it. Not only did I go in, I convinced 3 guys that I was going to school with, look, we're doing good, but we're not doing great. Our best opportunity is working at places like places where our parents had worked at and retired from, Lone Star, Red River, Cooper Tire, the paper mill. These were the industries in our neighborhood that you dreamed of getting high school and getting on working at these places. But there was no guarantee, and it wasn't gonna take you out of Texarkana. But if you was a dreamer and you really wanted to just see the world, the military was the ticket. And I convinced 3 people that would be the best decision. 2 of those guys retired from the military.
All right.
2 of them actually stayed the whole 20 years. And one of the other guy, his name Andre Merton. Back then we called him Booba. He's my best friend. He lives in Dallas now. He works for the VA.
Just like you.
Yeah.
So y'all never left your Army veterans roots? Nobody?
Well, I did.
Really?
I
left.
did, but
But you're back.
You come back to them because for me,
It's home.
I found myself in a rut, and I wasn't aware what it meant to be a veteran. And someone mentioned to me, have you tried going to the VA? Like, why would I go to the VA? I'm not in the Army anymore. But you served in the Army. You have an honorable discharge. You have all these benefits. Why are you not taking advantage of them? I'm like, really? And so I investigated. I followed up on the suggestion. And when I went into the VA and I told them that I was seeking some services, just a whole book opened up, and whole opportunities. And just being on a VA facility like the Michael D. Becky VA, when you go on this place, everybody there is a veteran. And you see a lot of the older veterans, and they tell you their stories. And it just makes you realize that you're a part of something bigger than you really ever thought about. And again, if you're a veteran out there, I mean, we honor you today. We thank you for your service. How we live is based on somebody willing to risk their life to fight. Now, we had World War I, we had World War II, we had the Korean War. We're in war right now.
Yep.
And you know what? We look out at the country and we see beheadings where people can't openly worship and have the liberties we have, and we walk and we just sometimes just take advantage of what it means to be American. We get caught up in some of the social issues, but the bigger issue is you can stand on the street corner, hold up a sign. The First Amendment is very big. You can just freely speak how you feel and disagree with people without the fear of someone's going to punish you for it.
And behead you.
Or behead you.
Right.
And
Well, thank you for your service, Danny.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you, Danny. We appreciate you, Danny. And so that's our dedication, our memorial to the veterans for today. So let's continue with hot topics. So one of the hot topics in the news is the mayor's race. So now we've concluded in the mayor's race. Today is November the 11th, 2015, and we had a lot of people running for mayor, at least 10.
Yeah.
Right? And now we have 2 that made it in the runoff. Sylvester Turner, my candidate, yay! Who I'd given a fundraiser for in June, Tina Watson and I, and other ladies. And we did it because we love him. He's our friend. He is in the heart of the community. He's done favors for us as a lawyer. He's grassroots. All of the candidates were qualified. But I'm a loyalist to my friend, and Sylvester Turner is my friend, and I think he's a friend to this city. He's worked hard his whole life, and he deserves to be the mayor of our city. I think he can take us forward in the next 4 to 8 years, because Houston is slated, as my friend Tina told me, to surpass Chicago to be number 3. So we need someone that's intelligent, that can represent our city and our state when he goes to city conferences, state conferences, and national conferences. That's a lawyer that has dealt with appropriations and budgets like he did for over 20, 30 years in Austin as a state representative, as a lawyer leading a nice-sized firm. I just think that, and he cares about his community, and guess what? He still lives in Acres Home, like he's lived all of his life.
Really?
So that's a blessing to us. He doesn't live out in the suburbs. He hasn't had to move in because he was running. He lives in the neighborhood that raised him, and I think we're blessed to have him. And he went to Harvard.
can I ask you a question, Vivian?
Sure.
How does it, just for the educational aspects of how election goes, how is it that Mr. Turner received the highest numbers of votes, but he didn't win, and he has to go off to a runoff December 12th against Bill King?
Well, the way our city elections go is you have to get 51% of the vote to win. If you don't get 51%, then it's a runoff between the top people that make up that 51%.
The top 2.
The top 2.
Okay.
Right. So, because somebody has to get 51%. So if someone out of those 10 would have gotten 51% and everybody else got 5, 10, 15, then he would have won outright. But because he got the most votes, but he didn't get 51%. So now, when he runs against Bill King, the one who gets 51% or the most votes wins.
That's great. Thank you.
Being a young person, Cookie doesn't tell her age, but being a young person, we're going to say between 20 and 30.
Yes.
Do you care about city elections like the mayor's race, Cookie? And if not, how can I make you care?
How can you make me care? Honestly, I do, to a degree. I do care to a degree. I think the best way to reach our generation is to let us know, or to speak about our issues. I feel like the Prop 1, a lot of the social issues took the front burner of everything. And, our generation, we're like, we don't care about that kind of stuff. Who cares? Everyone uses the same bathroom. Like, that's not nothing new.
Right.
And then on top of that, we don't really feel we have the connection now to choose who runs. In our circle, we think that, you have to have the certain amount of money, you have to have the certain know-how and the certain people to be able to run for certain positions. So we're like, well, who cares? We don't even have a say as in who gets to run. But I know that's not true. And I think because we don't necessarily know collectively that it's not true, then we're like, whatever. I'm more concerned about this, that, or the third versus elections because we feel we have no power, when in reality we do.
Well, that's a very good summary of how young people feel. So what do you think, how can I inspire you to continue to make people your age know about elections and pass it around social media and package it in a way that they would care?
That they would care.
And listen, what can I do?
I feel, were you or just...
What can I do to inspire you to do it
To do
among your
something.
generation? I can't communicate with them, but you can.
I can. One thing is to reach out more. I know even with the GOP debate, or just even candidates running on the Democratic side and Republican side, our section more so looks at who has the highest social media rating, like who's more reaching out to us how we communicate. And Donald Trump is the #1 who's on social media, who's doing things that appeals to our generation. Now, of course, we know that's a joke to some people, you know, but for the most part, reaching out to us where we are, meet us where we are.
Okay.
And let us know what's
going on.
on.
I'm going to keep up with that. Meet us where we are.
Yeah, meet us where we are. Don't make us go and reach out to you because we're being fed things every day. So if you don't feed us, I know it sounds horrible, but if you don't feed us, then it's like, we're like, well, we don't want it. We just want to eat what's being fed to us because we don't have to go search for anything because everything's already there.
Okay, well, that's a good way of putting it. So when it comes to the mayor's race and who's the mayor, so the mayor is similar to our national structure. The mayor is the leader. So the mayor doesn't make the decisions, but the mayor can lead the agenda, set the agenda for the other city council persons, but it has to be a majority vote. But there are certain things the mayor can do and have executive power to do, similar to the president. So they don't make the decisions, just like the president doesn't make the decisions.
Right.
So what your generation gets confused about is that you vote for the president and you say, the president didn't do anything for me. Well, Congress makes the laws, so we have to remember that. Y'all are closer to history than we are, history lessons. Congress makes the law, so it's very important that you know who your congressional people are.
Right.
And then the senators have to ratify it or edit it or change it, and then the president either vetoes the bill or he signs the bill into law. So he doesn't create the laws, but he does have executive powers.
Right.
And so we need to know, and they're supposed to guide the agenda. And so knowing that, since we're dealing with the mayor's race, our mayor determines who the next police chief will be. Young people are heavily affected by police brutality, police policies. I've had teenagers on, like Mauricio, who's one of our student producers there, whose dad is also a lawyer, Rudolfo Cantu, and a sponsor of this show.
Hi.
We've had, and so we've had them talk about how their white, Hispanic, or Asian friends are treated differently by the police officers on a traffic stop, and that's got to stop.
Right.
So you guys need to be concerned about that on social media. Just let the police treat everybody the same. We're not saying don't police. We want you to police.
Right.
But you need to police the white kids like you police the Hispanic kids and the Asian kids and the black kids. We want justice. We want everybody to be treated equally, and then let everybody fight it out. So if a white kid is stopped for a traffic ticket, you need to search his car just like you would the black kid. And so I think that's what people want. Your generation should be concerned about that because the mayor alone determines who the police chief is going to be.
See, didn't know that.
And so take that note so you can somehow package
write that
that
down.
for me. You got to package that because the runoff is December the 12th. And so because Sylvester Turner is grassroots and he's here, he would probably pick someone that's good. We talked to him about that. I've talked to him personally about that. So because that's a concern of mine and for your generation and for my daughter's generation, which is yours.
Right.
And so we need to have mayors that we can talk to that are not so far away that we can't reach them. So if you had a problem in your community, you could say, Big Sister Viv, go talk to the mayor about this for me. And I could do that because he's close to the vest.
Well, right. I mean, and I think that's
and
what
you want a mayor like that.
Yeah,
And so
that
that's why it's
conversation.
kids. Another thing kids need to understand, because y'all are job seekers, is that the city is the biggest employer in Houston. They employ more people than any other company. Young people need to know that. Okay? So you can find jobs. It might be And they give great retirement benefits. That's one of the reasons why the city is broke, is because we have to pay for so many people that are retired that are still alive, because they retire young and they haven't cut as many benefits as corporate America has.
Now, will we still have those benefits when we get that age? That's the question.
You'll have them, and they'll always be as equal to corporate America, if not better. Because right now they're better. So over the last 20 years, when corporate America has cut benefits, the city has not. And so people still, they might make low, but they have great benefits.
Right.
So they might retire with full health insurance. Might be getting their same salary for retirement. If they retire at 50, they're going to get that for years.
That works for the city of Houston, and they told me that too.
It's
They
the
have great benefits
because they haven't cut it. But that's
Housing,
also
everything.
expensive
Yeah.
for taxpayers, because we're still paying for all those people that are still alive, still working and alive and not really old.
Right.
They retire before they're 65. But
Right.
that's important for young people. So the city is a great place to work.
See, but
Because
the thing is, those people need to not need to.
Well, they
but
will.
They have to retire.
They will.
So we can come on in.
And one of the things that the next mayor has to do is figure out how to manage that money, the retirement scale and the new hires. But people are, since the city is the largest employers, that means that people are naturally retiring.
Right.
They have to. That means that they're dying, they're having strokes. Technology changes, so there's new areas that the older people won't be as good at,
Right.
That are important for every policing area. So just to know that. I mean, if you're a new engineer, if you don't get a job in corporate America, a new engineer right out of college could get a job in the engineering department at the city.
Yeah.
In all kind of areas. So that's another thing you need to know as a young person. Write that down.
City of Houston, right?
Largest employer. And
Largest.
one of the things the city is trying to do, if they haven't already done it, I can't remember, I don't want to misquote, is ban the box. And that's a big thing that Danny has always educated us about. And now our president, Obama, is openly saying we should ban the box. So I believe he's going to do his executive best to ban the box on federal employment applications. And I want to have a roundtable discussion about ban the box. I've heard some misunderstandings about that on the radio with people just speculating. What ban the box means is, if you have an application that asks about if you have a criminal record and asks about all your other good qualifications, and you submit that application online and they see that you're a felon, you just go in a pile and they never respond to you. So you never get the interview. It doesn't mean they're not going to do a background check on you, because even if you disclose what you've done, all companies still do background checks. But what it does is it allows them to just look at your application and decide whether, based on your application and your qualifications, whether or not they want to invite you in for an interview without being X'd out, without even talking to them. Because there are many people that are working that have records. You just don't know it.
Right.
And before there was computer access to background checks, then companies couldn't check, and they don't even know that people have records. So what it does is it allows people to get the interview. And in the interview, then you can verbally ask someone, but they're going to do a background check. So that gives the felon an opportunity to say, look, I've been in trouble, I'm good at this, I'm good at this, I'm good at this, but I do want you to know when you do my background check, you are going to find some background, and then you could plead your case.
Right.
Give me 90 days to try to show that I can do this or whatever. And then they might have already liked you, because there are a lot of people that have records that are smooth talkers, that are good workers.
They're people.
So, it just depends on what it is.
Yeah.
So the advantage of ban the box is they get the interview. It doesn't mean that their background check, once that comes in and they have 10 candidates that are all just as qualified, that the person with the criminal record won't be eliminated based on their criminal record. But at least they had the interview.
Right.
And then that person who interviewed them, even though they might have chosen someone without a criminal record, that interviewer then can say, maybe 5 months down the line, if they work in human resources, a new job has come up that I think this person would be good at, or a different area of the company has opened up that we can test them in. It might be in the field where you're not around people, or whatever the criteria is, but that can be a pile that, well, he's in the like pile, but I'm just not going to pick that person right now.
Or not for this specific job.
Yeah, exactly.
It may be something else that, like you said, you're more qualified for, or I feel more okay with hiring you to do.
And that's what the ban the box is. So don't be fooled that it means anything other than the fact that you just get the interview. It doesn't mean that the background check part of it is not going to be done. Okay, and I've heard some misnomers about that, like there's not going to be a background check. There's still going to be a background check.
Right.
Okay, so how do you feel about that, Danny, the ban the box, since you're on the bandwagon with that and you marched on Washington about ban the box?
Well,
Give us your thoughts.
Well,
And tell us about what you did. since Cookie doesn't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Everybody else knows because he's on all the time, but you tell us.
I belong to a grassroots organization called Texas Advocates for Justice, and their goal is aimed at ending mass incarceration. We have a term for mass incarceration. We call it the beast. And the reason we describe it as the beast is it's so huge and it's so big and so fierce, you really can't destroy it. The beast can't be destroyed. So mass incarceration, as it stands in the United States now, 2.4 million people are incarcerated in this country. There's no way you can just take down this system overnight. So being a part of these organizations, they look at the beast like this. If you can't kill it, what do you do to attack something you can't destroy? And they came up with it, well, you kill his food supply. You take away his food supply. You can't kill him, so you take away what he eats, what he survives off of.
Right.
So if it was like a beast in the woods and you're like, okay, he has to drink water, we're gonna poison his water supply. He likes to eat berries. Well, let's take all the berries out the forest. So with the prison system, to destroy it, what does it feed off of? The beast feeds off people. So we can gear people away from going to prison. It can collapse on itself. You
Right,
just
in the
starve
first
it.
place.
Because most of the prisons are ran by private companies. And I may have gotten off the subject because we were talking about banning the box, but that kind of set up the organization I belong to. Well, they sent me to Washington, D.C. to participate in a protest. And the protest was to ban the box. And what we wanted was, we marched in Washington, D.C. to get President Obama to use his pen to write an executive order banning the box at the federal level. Now,
He's talking about it, so it looks like y'all's protest was effective.
Right.
He's talking
right.
about it, so doesn't that make you feel good?
Well, you know, exactly, because I was in Washington, D.C., and I have the video, but what it is, for me, it was so historic for me. I know people have been to Million Man marches, and when the King statue was enacted, I wasn't there for that. But for the ban the box protest, I was in Washington, D.C.
And why was that important to you, Danny?
Well, because I spent 15 years inside the beast, and it ate off me for 15 years.
It ain't off you.
Right.
But the thing about it is, I kind of like, he didn't have to like capture me. I kind of like ran to him
Right.
like, yeah,
Come get me.
eat me. So, but the thing about it is, I found the thing that I feared most to defeat it, instead of running from it, I got involved in it. So my enemy, I got to know my enemy. And so that's how I got on it, involved in restorative justice, in prison ministry, mentoring, legal assistance, being on this show. Everything that I'm doing is a result from my experience of spending the time in prison. So I took my lemons, and I've been making some great tasting lemonade.
Yeah, great lemonade. Danny's saying legal assistant, that's one of his jobs. I actually have employed him to help me with my clients that are in jail. So on Sundays after church, we go to jail to visit my clients. I always did that, but now Danny goes with me. And I give him just a little something to make it worth his while. So he's a cheap legal assistant. Although it's a lot for me and it's a lot for him, but our clients are poor.
Yeah.
So Danny and I go, and I try to talk to them legally, and then most of them are young men. So, and because they're young men, I really can't relate to them, and I can tell them the legal system, and I can try to mama them and talk to them as a lawyer. But Danny, I leave the room, and then Danny talks to them about what's really going on,
Right.
and what they really might have to face, because these kids are in bad situations. I mean, I got about 3 of them with murder cases,
Capital murder, Vivian.
capital murder cases, murders. The guys who are going to do some time. I mean,
Right.
that's basically the ones that I take Danny to see with me. The ones that's just going to be there for a year or two, not those. But this is the murder, capital murders. What else do we have? Well, Anyway,
Drug offenses.
bad drug offenses, though,
Yeah.
like in the kilos. So Danny goes and talks to those guys because there's an opportunity for them to go home because some of them have self-defense claims or they didn't do it or they weren't there. But the issue is they still have to they need to focus on their real situation. And sometimes there's a disconnect with my age and my intellect with communicating with them where they need to be. And so Danny's been helping me for so long. He's like a little lawyer. So he can kind of bridge that gap for me between what's really going on and the law. Would you agree with me on that, Dan?
Right, because what we try to do is get them to realize that you're going to defend them, but what you're going to do about your life.
Right. Right. So I talk about how I'm going to defend them, what their legal defenses are, their current situations, but I'm not their mother and I'm not their friend.
Right.
I'm their lawyer. And Danny talks to them about
Real issues about, what if Vivian win your case? What would happen if
Then
they
what?
let you out right now?
Right.
What would that look like? And this is what it is, it's perception. And you get them to open up to the idea of what can be different. And when you're in that cell, you're not having that conversation. So when we're talking, we're having a conversation, and this is how I found, we kind of did this by trial and error, but what I found out is, ask them about their life. And we start as early as we can. And we start them from 5 or 6 years old. What was it like then? And we traveled on this little short journey. And when they're traveling on this journey, what they don't realize is they really start identifying who they really are, not the life they've been living on the streets.
And you pull that out of them.
And I allow them to pull it out of themselves because they can't have those real conversations with the people they're locked up with. And they've forgotten a lot of stuff.
I've always done the social background,
Right.
And get into their lives, but
You have
there's
to.
still something that I can't do because I've never been to prison.
Yeah.
And so they're locked up. So they're not necessarily in prison, but they're incarcerated. So they're living with the beast. And so I realized that, in Danny's ministry at the church and helping me here, that he could be a good asset to kind of help them with that part of it. Because, like I said, I've always done the social background. It's kind of the format of this show. We start from high school or as a kid or where they are. That's kind of my format. But Danny takes it to another level because he can, as he gets their story and I get their story, then I can leave and go talk to another client, and then Danny can tell them, well, that was my story up until I went to prison, and this is what prison was really like,
Right.
and how I went 3 times.
Right.
And, because some of them have not been there. I mean, I don't think any of them have been there a lot. I mean, well, maybe one, but maybe it was Watson. But the rest of them have not been there that long, or even Mr. Watson, he didn't do that much time. He's a habitual, but he's only did like 2 years in 2 years.
And then I was at a transfer facility, and as you get to know them, it's the crazy thing about it, they're excited when you come back.
Yeah.
Really. Now, have any one of them ever said to you, or even to you, like, this guy is what I needed, this is great, I need this, it's helped?
Well, because Danny ends with them, they don't really get to talk. So when we come back, like, we got them in rotation because we go on Sunday.
Okay.
So when we go back, they're just excited because they don't know that we're coming because it's like, we're not coming like Sunday after Sunday to the same people. We're rotating,
Okay.
And so if I get somebody new, we go see them. But Danny's really for the long-termers. I might be in there with them for 30 minutes, me and Danny, and then I might go see somebody new that Mama just hired me.
Yeah.
And Danny will stay and talk to them and continue to talk to them because I've been knowing them before Danny started helping.
Right. So you already know a lot of the background.
Yeah, I already knew their backgrounds. But I know one mother has told me on a capital murder that, that guy you sent, can you send him again? So I know that the boy had talked to his mother. That's Valentine.
Right.
Breaking through.
Yeah, it's break. And he's the
Right.
youngest. He's the youngest.
Right.
He's the youngest guy that I have for murder.
And what it is his loyalty was to a gang, but his mother is coming and visiting him. And what I asked him was, who you gonna be loyal to? Because he told me about his family. He comes from a good family, but he's chosen this other family. And I said, if you go in the system as a gang member, you're not gonna get out until you almost serve all your time. If once they label you that in the system and you assimilate with these people, that the parole board is gonna always use that against you. Because they say your loyalty is not to your family, not to your mother, not to your kids. We understand what loyalty is when you say you loyal to a gang. So I told them, you need to make a decision now. Do you love, because he was talking about how good his family background was, but if it was so good and you have all these values that you admire about your mother and your family, well, why are you not being steered toward that while you're here? What are you going to do?
Yeah, because if they see that you want to stay committed to the gang, I'm not going to let you back out and go back to the gang and cause more havoc and come back in.
They fear
right.
what gangs do when they're young. And let me get back on point.
All right.
And I appreciate, Vivian, you bringing that up, because it's like we're creating this awesome program. I mean,
Yeah,
Vivian.
yeah. It makes us feel good. I used to always feel good getting prayed up on Sunday and visiting my client, but I knew that Danny could bring that aspect that I just don't know about. I've never been to prison.
Yeah.
So he can talk to him real talk. I can't do that.
And we leave so excited.
Yeah.
Because you know you made a difference. Even though she's there to legally defend them, tooth and nail, and she's ready to fight. And every guy I've talked to, I told him, man, look, I don't know who you know, but God has some favor in your life because you got Vivian for your attorney.
Right.
Because one thing about it is, she's not representing you, she cares about you. She cares about you as a person, not as a client. Yes, she's going to represent you because you're a client, but she actually cares about you. She wants, once you get out of here, just not to just go back to your life. She wants you to go back to her life.
Hence the reason she brings you in. The fact you even bring him
I wouldn't
in.
be here
Right.
if she didn't think that you were more than just a client. And I try to resonate that to them to give them peace and a whole lot of hope.
They seem happy too.
Yeah.
Don't you think? They seem happy.
Well, they know you fighting for them on more than just a professional level.
They know I care, but they seem happy when they see me and Danny. You know what I mean? They always were happy to see me,
Right.
but it's like I see an extra glow now that they see Danny coming back. And then it looks like, especially the young one, Valentine, it looks like he's happy. He's glad to see me because he's a mama's boy.
Yeah.
But when I leave to go see somebody new, then Danny's still there sitting there talking to him. They go on and have a man talk, right?
Right.
Right.
Now, would
That's
y'all feel that maybe the lack of hope, the lack of someone caring about them, believing in them, is the reason they're so happy with you two? And maybe why they're
Who
there
can
in the
live
first
without
place?
hope?
Right.
I mean, you know, we look at a person's situation and say, oh, he's in prison, he's in jail. But man, you can find those thoughts, that condition in people all the time. Man, people live in prisons that don't look like those buildings that we go visit in. And they don't have anybody coming in talking to them on Sunday. They live in, they drown their depression or their prison with some type of vice.
Right.
Somebody may eat, somebody may drink, somebody may just
Smoke.
or shop online. I know people will just sit and just shop online and don't have any money. It just, you know, but I digress.
Yes, yeah.
And
We are digressing, and but we want to make sure that we get on Cookie's topic. So
right.
Youngblood brought us a young topic tonight. Let's talk about that, Miss Cookie.
Okay, so what we have here is the University of Missouri topic. So basically what happened was the president stepped down due to a student who went on a hunger strike, Jonathan Butler, who went on an 8-day hunger strike because of the racial tensions and things that were going on campus, and the president failed to acknowledge them. And they were like, okay, well, I'm going to go on this 8-day hunger strike. Then word got around to the football team, which is their moneymaker. And the football team decided, you know what, we're not going to play. And they had a huge game coming up that weekend. President stepped down the next day.
They didn't play at all that
2
game?
days. They did because the president
Stepped
resigned.
down right before then.
And so they were like, okay, fine. Yeah, the president didn't have a choice at that moment. But so 7% black at University of Missouri. 7%, 77% white. And they were saying for months now that they were having a lot of racial tensions going on, certain things going on. For example, according to Huffington Post, a few black kids had chimed in. 2004, they were saying a student wrote in the newspaper that black students were vandalizing the school property and that they should go back to their little worlds. 2010, they had cotton balls on the black cultural lawn. Students had put cotton balls on there.
And what do you think that signifies? Like Picking cotton.
Slavery, picking cotton.
Wow.
I mean, it's really sad. 'Cause,
That's,
like,
mean that the white people would
like,
do
come
that. That's
on.
mean. And
That's
to
like,
put the cotton
oh.
balls, I would have never thought about doing that.
Right. It's like, okay, so
Whatever.
2012, there was like a racial flyer put up around campus. And then just this year, they said there were 2 instances of swastikas.
She's young. She's reading it. She has no feeling for it. We were practicing right before swastikas.
And let's say what that is. And what that symbol represents is
Right.
what? Nazis.
That's
Right,
the Nazis
That's
to
the
the
Nazi
Jews.
symbol.
Nazis and the Jews. So that's the worst type of slavery, murder, genocide.
Right. And during homecoming this year, the black students blocked in the president saying, hey, hello, we're here, do something. And the president didn't do anything. So that's when things kind of escalated to this point. And now I've read, according to Twitter and Huffington Post as well, that the racial tension has gotten worse. They're calling it Nig Fest.
Oh my God.
That's going on now. It's crazy, right?
So
Like, it's
that
crazy.
means they need a leader. So hopefully Al Sharpton
Somebody.
or Obama or Jesse Jackson even, somebody needs to go down and kind of help them organize, because it
Right.
sounds like they organize good for young people to
Right.
have blocked in the president. A kid did a hunger strike. I mean, that's powerful 60s and 70s stuff.
Yeah.
But that's organizing.
That's organizing,
that's
but
organizing.
apparently if the racial tension is worse, him stepping down wasn't enough. He should have had a call of action to say we love all of our students and done something maybe peaceable. Stepping down, I'm not sure if that was the right thing, if it's still going on, because who's there to lead to create the peace? I mean, when he steps down, there should be an interim president that
Comes in and-
someone that can get everybody together and kind of rally everybody together in
Right.
love and hope, and remember what the kids are there for, education.
Right.
And remind the white kids, because they're growing up in this era of hate and listening to the radicalness on the radios and TVs, and so some white kids have been so isolated from black kids in their separate schools and their private schools
Growing up,
that they
right.
have a lot of meanness in them, even though our generation thinks it's over. If they've been segregated so much based on hate, because I mean the only reason why you segregate your kids is for better education, but there could be some other issues.
Right.
And then there's that other issue. We do have to watch ourselves as black people. I mean, there are a lot of black kids and teenagers that will vandalize. Now, the vandalization could be that it's coming from the outside kids in the neighborhood, because a lot of colleges have been there for so long. They become in inner cities neighborhoods.
Right, of themselves, right.
Of themselves.
And
so it
apparently,
could be that issue.
Yeah.
But, we do have a problem in our community, and we have to face that too, of disrespecting people's property. I mean, we do have a problem. And so I'm not going to just say that, the kids who are saying that are wrong. They're wrong for calling out a race as doing that and go back home or whatever. But we do have to realize that we need to respect people's property. But it's my experience that if it's 7% black, those are probably the cream of the crop black people, and they ain't vandalizing.
Right.
That would just be my gut instinct, totally uneducated as to the facts, because I haven't
Right.
studied it. But usually when there's a small minority, they've gotten there because they had great grades, they were the valedictorians of their classes, and they're not, they have hope. And they have a future. So they certainly would mess it up with a shoplifting or breaking in. So I would imagine if someone black is doing something, and I'm not saying they are doing something bad, it's probably just regular old criminals who prey on the community.
Not students.
Yeah,
Right,
just
but
prey
not
on
the
the
seven-
community.
and that was the thing they were
Because U of H
saying.
has a lot of
Right.
problems. I went to U of H, but U of H has a lot of problems with the community people purse snatching and robbing people, because I represented them. So I know, I've been appointed to
Car
represent
thefts.
them. Car theft, so it's the community that's doing it, and they could be black because it's in a black neighborhood, and we definitely need to stop the crime and stop stealing and taking other people's property.
Right.
But on the same token, it hurts my heart to think that the white majority kids at the school would think that the 7% of blacks are doing that.
That are there.
I'm just telling you, if it's 7% black,
Right.
that means that it's hard to get into, and they're the cream of the crop, and they don't need to steal.
Can I point out how powerful organizing is?
Yes.
And how it's a tool that that's the reason I got involved with Texas Advocate for Justice, because what organizing does is when people group together and they get signs and they protest, it's very effective. But in our culture, what we've gotten away from is we wait till something happens to organize instead of just saying, look, the things that we don't like in society, we can organize and change. We can get people to do something different if we come together and take a stance. If it's only 7% of students there, how did they get
7% of black students.
how did they move this guy out of position with
football
such
team.
small numbers?
It was the football team.
But even
It
on
was
the,
no, it's only the football team.
Right.
With those major schools, because they said the football team has made them like $85 million
Yeah.
or something.
Yep.
So
But
that's
that-
a lot of money.
That's their money
But let
And
me-
the president made $450,000 himself.
well, let me paint this picture. The organizers organized the football team.
Right.
So what I'm saying, still a
The
small.
most powerful minority organization of that school, which is the football team, because they're making up a lot of that 7%.
Right.
Are the ones who organized and did it. But as we know, in a capitalistic society like America, is you organize and you hit people in their pocketbooks. So Cookie would not know this unless she studied it, and you might remember it. It wasn't. The beauty of the 60s and 70s wasn't just the organization, it was everybody doing it in every way. For example, like Jesse Jackson with the Rainbow Push organization, through the Jet magazine that Everybody Black got weekly, it said, we're boycotting Coke this week. And so it was major boycotts that went along with the affirmative action program. And what affirmative action first was when we were boycotting Coke or boycotting Crest toothpaste, when Coke came to the table, or say Budweiser Brewery, when they came to the table, they had to give the percentage of jobs set aside commensurate with the consumption. So if minorities, black people, consumed 20% of all Coca-Cola products, then they had to put 20% in jobs.
Wow.
That's what the affirmative action was. So don't be fooled when you hear affirmative action. Jesse Jackson, that's the beauty of him. When people say what's not important about him, as a little girl, my aunts ran a beauty shop and they raised me. And so I would read the Jet magazine and my Aunt Mona would be like, okay, so who are we boycotting this week?
Right.
And that was one way of medium to get it out. We didn't have Twitter and Facebook, but we had the weekly Jet magazine. That was
Wow.
the significance of it. And the monthly Ebony magazine. And we talked about our efforts. And so we boycotted those products. And when they lost their percentage, because although we were 12% of the country, we were 20 and 25% of consumption, like cool cigarettes. We consumed a lot, beer and things like that. And so when we stopped buying those products, that's when the leaders of those organizations came to the table and said, okay, well, we'll set aside the percentage. That was the calculation. If you didn't know what to do on how to hire black people, at least got the percentage of consumption. And a lot of people don't realize that. That's what affirmative action was.
Wow, that's amazing.
I did a
Learn
paper,
something new
and I
every
did a
day.
paper on it in college. I did it in college because I was curious about it because I was raised around these boycotts, and so I was wondering, why did what? So anyway,
Why don't we get away from that?
That was the original formula. So it was a percentage thing based on consumption. So don't let people say, oh, y'all just getting handouts. No, Budweiser and Coke and cool cigarettes, they were giving us back what dollars they made on us. So
Why don't we do Walmart like that to get them to raise? I was in Walmart and I was buying something at the McDonald's in Walmart. And I asked for some extra something, and the lady said 30 cents. I said 30 cents.
Oh, not at McDonald's. You can't get extra sauce.
Well, I'm from that was something
from
new.
the country, yeah, Texas.
I'm like, give me some extra ranch dressing. That'll be 30 cents. I'm like, really? So she was saying, I was like, if I knew that you were benefiting from me paying extra, I would. She said, I make $7.25 an hour, and I've been making that for about 2 years. And I really felt bad that this woman at McDonald's, they make all that money, and she making minimum wage. And the employers, and I don't know how I got on Walmart, because I love Wally World. But
Well, it's really, that's what that complaint you have is with McDonald's, which is franchised. And from the capitalistic point of view, just for discussion purposes, McDonald's spends probably more than anybody other company on advertising. They probably spend $1 billion a year on advertising, and they have to advertise so that they're breaking bread with so many people, including the owner of that McDonald's. So they're advertising for everybody. So there's a profit margin built in, and that's why they have to pay for everything, because the owner has to pay the franchise tax to the franchisees. So it's like all the way up. And so the fact that she's worked there for 2 years gives you some indication that she's getting what? She's getting consistent work, because when I look to hire somebody, I want to make sure that they have consistent work history. it must be good enough for her to stay because she didn't leave in 6 months. She might be getting benefits, which she might need for a kid at home. You know, you never know what the other factors are.
Yeah.
So although I think that they should raise the minimum wage, but do understand, when McDonald's on these major franchisees raises the minimum wage, they will raise the prices. Because they're gonna, that profit margin that they've built in, they're gonna keep, because that's capitalism. So understand there's going to be a trade-off. It's just like the oil industry. Everyone says, oh, we're losing money because of the oil industry because the oil is cheaper. Well, obviously, we're going to drive more. People are now going to drive home for Thanksgiving and take road trips where they wouldn't take it when it was high.
Spend more money. They're going to
spend more money. So that's good for the economy. The billionaires are just losing a little profit, but they're still making a profit. So, but they make everybody panic and feel their pain instead of us making them feel our pain. And so we just have to be educated about that.
So, what do you believe in the formula that it's the 1% and we're part of the 99%?
Absolutely, I do believe in that.
And here's another one. Do you believe that a person like me that makes under, I'm not going to say how much I make, but there's a new class of people out there. You know what they call them? The working poor.
Yeah, and I think that there are a lot of people that are working poor.
And, you know, and that's not a negative. It's just an observation of saying, I'm working to survive.
Right.
You know, I'm not working to grow. Like there's no growth in this, but there's survival. And, you know, your faith keeps you there, right there, and say, you know what, I'm not complaining. And if this is the class I fit in, I'm okay with that. Because it's another alternative to not being a working poor, is just being poor.
Or a
Right.
millennial.
Or just poor. You know?
What do you mean by that? Tell me about this millennial.
I feel like
Are you a millennial?
I am.
Okay, and what defines you as a millennial?
Well, anyone aged between 1980s to early 2000s.
Okay.
And I feel like our generation is screwed, but at the same time, we have so much room for opportunity and possibility. We are pretty much lost. We don't have any jobs because people are still working because we gotta survive, right? So no one's giving up their jobs in your age, as you shouldn't if you don't want to have to. So we're stuck here trying to find work. So that's why we have so many YouTube channels. We have so many crazy random things online or Facebook, things like that, because we have to create these new jobs. We have to create jobs for ourselves. The thing is we were raised to, you can do whatever you want to do, but no one told us what. So we come into the world like, well, maybe I want to do this, maybe I want to do that, maybe I want to do this. And you never know, you're kind of stuck. You're just like, okay, well, I could try this, it worked a little bit. Well, I don't know about that. You go to college, you spend all this money on a degree, no job is available for you, so now you're what? In a cafe every day trying to figure out some brand new app, or, you know, making some YouTube channel or going into some type of field that maybe that's not even what you studied. So it's a struggle sometimes being a millennial, especially in my age range, because it's like, you know, the jobs aren't there. And so we're forced to create them. So that's the fun part and the exciting part, but at the same time, there's no money in it. That's why you have 30-year-olds, which a lot of times is okay, still staying at home with their parents, whether it's saving money, whether it's because they're not making any money. And then if we do work as a barista at Starbucks, or we do start this online web show or something, that's not enough to make it on our own. We don't have no 401k. We don't have any retirement plan. I don't mean to, we just
and we're growing, the country's growing, but it's growing from the top up. It's like the bottom is not growing, but the top is doing very, very well.
Well, let me just say this. One of the things I noticed about the millennials, and I can be all wrong because I'm a baby boomer,
right?
But it appears that you guys are not willing to start from the bottom and slowly work your way up. You want it all now, and that's kind of hurts you.
Definitely.
Because you want it all now instead of working. I'll have a young person that I give an opportunity to grow with my company. They'd be there 2 months and want to quit. They'd rather quit than sit and work for $10 or $12 an hour, where they're learning, but they don't realize with all of the things that I'm doing, I'm having fundraisers for mayoral candidates. I mean, there's so many opportunities to meet other people just by being with me. And but they don't see that opportunity. And I tell them all, once you outgrow this and you've done a good job, I'll help you find a job where you want to. But y'all need to have more volunteer spirits. You have to help. You have to stop saying, what's in it for me? In our generation, we would work for free until somebody hired us. And that's what I encourage my clients to do. But I see it's getting close to the end. And there's a phone call. So caller, thank you for calling. And turn your volume down. And please, Tell me what's on your mind.
Hi, Vivian.
Hi.
I would just like to say I totally agree with Cookie because I'm 19 years old, and exactly what she said, that's how I feel the same way. We have different parents raising us. Like, as in y'all's age, y'all's parents were raised in a different situation. So y'all grew up in a different way. And then y'all want us to be, I would say, y'all raised us to not live y'all's lifestyle that y'all lived when y'all were young.
It's complicated, and I want to talk about it. Thank you for calling
Thank you.
Millennial. Is there a group after you?
No.
Okay.
Well, we haven't came up with a name yet for them.
Okay, because I heard of another name in between baby boomers and millennials. What's that?
We have Generation Y, then Generation X.
Yeah, Generation Y and X. They're older
They're
than y'all.
older.
Okay,
Well,
okay.
we kind of can fall in the Generation
Y.
Y.
Yeah, because Generation X is after us. Okay, I understand what you're saying, Mauricio, and I appreciate that, being a 19-year-old. It is a different day. I'm trying to teach my daughter, who's 20, to crawl before she walks, and that's the hardest lesson for you guys. Because y'all idolize black millionaires and Hispanic millionaires. We didn't do that. And so we understood, like Danny was saying, you grow up and you just want to work where your parents worked. And a lot of people in San Antonio where I grew up, they worked where their parents worked, even my age group. But they knew they would work for minimum wage until they worked their way up to supervisor or whatever it was required. We didn't expect to have it all. Like, my daughter wants what I have. I mean, hell, I'm old as black shoe polish. Well, I should have it. I mean, and I still don't have that much. I mean, if something happened to me, I'd lose everything. So if I wasn't healthy. So you have to learn patience. I mean, that's one thing your generation needs is patience.
I was just telling my best friend that today. I was just telling her that today. I was like, I need patience.
Y'all don't have patience?
Because we're so used to instant gratification. Of course, we're the popcorn generation. So we expect everything to come when we want it because it does. That's the thing.
And it doesn't, and that's why most of y'all are at home.
Exactly.
Because you haven't learned how to marry reality to the fictional world y'all live in. I mean, y'all are talking to these millionaires every day on Instagram and Twitter, all of your stars that you love, and so you think y'all want that life. Well, that life is 1 in a million. And so, I mean, you at least want your parents' life instead of working slowly for it. I mean, it might be 25 years before you'd be where you want to be, but you got to work towards it.
Right.
And you have to have the patience to do that. You can't just say, oh, I don't like this job, I'm quitting. Well, hell, you're not building a resume.
Right, but the thing, going back to, a lot of times, it's not so much that you aren't willing to work, it's that the pay isn't there for you to
No, it's
move
not
out
there.
by
Well, that's what I'm
yourself,
talking about.
you know?
No, you can't. You can't move out right away. It might take you 5 years to move out, but if you're not working right now making $10 an hour, you won't be making $20 an hour 5 years from now. You still 25 years from now, if you decide to join the workforce in a serious, consistent manner, it'll still be $10 for you. So you need to get started now.
Right, but when it comes down even to consistency, our generation, no one's staying in a job longer than 2 to 5 years. No job is keeping anyone in our generation from 2 to 5 years. It's a revolving door. And in the baby boomers, y'all were staying jobs for like 20 years. That was the norm. But
this
now,
is a fantastic conversation, Cookie,
really
but I'm getting the start wrap up sign. So try to take 30 seconds and say what you dream of, what you want, and you get 30 seconds, and we got to close this out. You can do it, Danny, if you want to. Let Cookie think.
Yeah, go ahead, Danny.
Well,
Happy Veterans
I need to
Day.
digress.
Yeah. Oh well. Happy Veterans Day. And one thing I've learned that strong people don't need strong leaders. So we're not waiting for the next Martin Luther King or the next President Obama. Be the change you want to see in the world. Get involved in service work. Get out of your house. Get out in front of the reality TVs. And get involved and get on the front line, boots on the ground. I work at the prison ministry here at St. John's downtown. We meet on Thursdays from 5:30 to 7. So if you have your loved ones are dealing with being incarcerated, reentry, meet us there on Thursdays from 5:30 to 7, St. John's downtown.
I need to wrap it up now. So thank you so much for watching Truth and Justice with Vivian King. And we will continue to bring you interesting stories, people's stories about what's going on with them in the world, what's going on with them in the criminal justice system, and what's going on in our lovely city of Houston. Thank you for watching Truth and Justice. Remember, I want to tell your stories. Reach out to me, and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in again. Tonight we have something really good, a hot topic in the news this week. We've been charged with crime. This is a show where I try to educate. Real stories.